Hi, this is Joyce Polino Crane. I am with Terry Eliasen, the meteorologist and weather executive producer for WBZ. He is our resident meteorologist. He's a Westford resident. Hi, Terry.
Hello, thanks for having me again, Joyce.
I'm so happy to have you. We want to talk weather because I feel like things are changing out there, and I want you to set me straight. So
see if I can do that.
I would appreciate it. So rain, let's talk about rainfall.
Yeah, so rain has been a bit ridiculous in July thus far. As of this recording, the first 12 days of July were near record amounts of rain. In fact, as of right now, we are the third wettest July on record in Boston. And this is going back to the 1800s. We've had almost 10 inches of rain in Boston in the first 12 days. And that is a lot. Just to kind of put that into perspective, some of our biggest rain events in the history of our area, you know, hurricanes Carol and Edna in the 50s. We had some May flooding back in 2006. This is getting closer and closer to those thresholds. So it really has been just a remarkable stretch. And this, of course, is coming from, we were talking, if I had talked to you 4 or 5 weeks ago, we would have been talking about a possible drought this summer. And here we are now talking about record rainfall, flooded basements. You know, it's been crazy.
So this is the week of July 12th, and it looks like we'll get some sun on Thursday and Friday, but then what happens next weekend?
Yeah, I mean, right now it looks like another cold front comes through Saturday at some point during the day with the chance of showers and thunderstorms. And it may just very well happen that that front gets stalled out to our south early next week. And if that happens, we could be looking at another sort of day or two of heavy rain. I hope by the time this airs, you know, that front will have pushed further south and we can, you know, get into some nicer weather. But as of right now, looks like we could be in for some more rain, you know, this weekend or early next week.
And so is that all related to Elsa, the hurricane?
So Elsa came through a few days back on Friday. I think it was the 9th or the 8th. But anyways, that was the first tropical storm to make landfall here in New England in 15 years. So that was a fairly rare occurrence. Made landfall in Rhode Island and came up over southeastern Mass. And that's sort of what exacerbated this whole issue. I mean, it's one thing to have a rainy couple of weeks, but Elsa just, you know, some places got between 3 and 5 inches of rain in just 24 hours. So that really sort of put us over the edge as far as our, you know, the streams, the basements, and now any additional rain that we get is just, you know, kind of adding insult to injury.
So I heard there were flash flood warnings on the news last night. What is a flash flood?
So a flash flood is a flood that happens in a very brief period of time. So in other words, in the span of just a couple hours or less, you get so much rain that it just can't drain into the basins quick enough. It can't drain into the nearby rivers quick enough. And so it just builds up on the streets. And if you have a house or a backyard that's prone to flooding, you'll probably, you know, when you hear a flash flood warning, you know, that means you're basically at a very high risk of getting some street or sort of urban, you know, house basement type flooding. So sort of means like if you can take precautions, you know, get out there and clean the storm drains, you know, get the sump pump ready. And those things tend to happen, you know, on average once or twice a summer when you get heavy thunderstorms. We've had a couple of those just in the last week or so. So hopefully we've seen the last of that.
Hopefully, but then there's also the wind. And the wind scares me because it's picking up, and sometimes I'm on a bike ride, you know, and if a microburst came through, I just kind of feel like it could be pretty dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, microbursts are also fairly rare, but they typically only happen during thunderstorms. So if, you know, hopefully if you're on a bike and there's a thunderstorm either nearby or overhead, you would be taking shelter and not just kind of driving through it. Because it might, you know, something like as powerful as a microburst wouldn't happen without some sort of thunderstorm overhead with it. But I think in general, especially this spring, we've had so many high-end wind events lately. And when I say high-end, I mean if you looked at the average, and actually a couple of colleagues and I have done this at WBC, if you looked at just the average wind speeds for the last year or two, we actually haven't, by the averages, it hasn't been any windier than normal. But if you look at the number of high-end, like really dramatic wind events just in the last 6 months or so, we've had a number of them. This spring we had, I don't know how many times we had big wind days where there were trees down, or tree damage, line pole and line damage. It's just been getting more and more. And if you go through a walk, which my wife and I do all the time, go on one of Westford's or nearby towns, one of their walking paths in the woods, there are just trees down everywhere. There are limbs everywhere. And I wonder, maybe someone should do a study, maybe somebody at BZ will have to find the time to do it. But I don't remember a time in our lives where there have been so much brush in the woods and trees and limbs down in the woods. And I'm wondering, if we're at a particularly vulnerable time, a lot of our trees are maybe aging. A lot of our tree regrowth happened. So we kind of going back a little bit, the hurricane of 38 came through, and we lost a whole bunch of trees here. And now a lot of those trees, since that time, have been aging. And so maybe it's just a lot of, we're just going, just kind of getting through a lot of our older tree growth here in the last couple of years, but it's been dramatic.
Yes, it has indeed. And so hopefully this, they will calm, the wind will calm and the rain will slow, and we'll get back to what we're used to. I don't have any more questions for you. Is there anything you want to share?
Well, while we're talking about wind, it is hurricane season. Most of the forecasts we've already had, we just had Tropical Storm Elsa, which was our 5th named storm in the Atlantic already, and it's only July. And pretty much every forecaster out there that forecasts for hurricane season was calling for an above average season. And of course, the above average season, we could get 30 hurricanes, but if none of them hits New England, then it's like, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. But, I do think, we are particularly vulnerable this year, for a number of reasons. Very warm Atlantic Ocean, which fuels these things, especially off our coast. It's much milder than average. So you can never predict if if this is going to be the year where a big one hits New England. But I do think it's been, again, since 1938 and the 1950s, since we've had like a major hurricane hit New England. And it's just a matter of time. Not to say this is going to be the year, but there's been so much coastal buildup, since our last hurricane, and a lot of folks living in Westford in the area today have never really experienced a major hurricane. So I do think kind of the clock is ticking, and sooner rather than later, unfortunately, we're going to have another big one here. Let's just hope it's not this year.
Or any year, but yeah.
Or any year, yeah.
I get you. You mentioned the hurricane of 1938, and I've always been fascinated by the events of that hurricane. I don't even remember the name of the hurricane.
So they didn't name them back then. It was just called the Hurricane of 38. Yeah.
And do you know that you must know the story of the minister, the minister of a church took 12 mothers of 12 women from the church to a picnic on the shoreline in Rhode Island, and the hurricane came through, and I think most of all of that group were killed.
Yeah, the effects down in like Buzzards Bay, Narragansett Bay, Rhode Island, the flooding was just remarkable. Something that we couldn't even really imagine because we've never seen it here in our lifetimes. So you just hope that nothing like that ever happens again. But things like that do repeat themselves. That was probably a once every 100-year kind of event for us. And well, it's almost been 100 years. Not to say that it's going to happen anytime soon, but the thing that concerns me about another major hurricane is just the amount of buildup along the coast, the amount of beach erosion we've already seen. I just think no one can really prepare for an event like that. And again, just hoping nothing happens like that anytime soon.
And do you have any projections for the fall?
It's a bit early for the fall. If anything, it certainly seems like we're in a milder than average pattern. And that's no new news there. It feels like every month is above average now. But, I think what we can certainly count on is above average, especially in September. Temperatures, as for rainfall, it's a little early to predict. Let's just hope that all this rain is, we can kind of end the summer on a more quiet note. But no, I mean, fall typically is, as folks that live here long enough, it's typically one of our drier seasons, one of our sunnier seasons. So, and I think we could use one of those right about now after all the rain we've gotten.
Yeah, but at least we don't have to water our gardens. Because
no, absolutely right. Everybody's saving money on water bills. I hope if your sprinklers aren't off at this point, I think we can safely turn them off for a while.
Yes, please do. Okay, well, thank you so much, Terry. I enjoyed talking with you, and we'll get back. We'll do it again sometime in the autumn.
Anytime. Thanks, Joyce.
Okay, take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
WestfordCAT News, this is Joyce Polino Crane.